welcome to Amphlett Reviews and today we have a Hong Kong content review. It is good to be back, guys, after a couple of weeks. I simply just not had the time to do any video content, edit it, watch Hong Kong movies, let alone. Very busy couple of weeks, but it's good to be back right now, guys, and also with a brand new phone, which means a brand new camera. I have the Samsung 23 Ultra, really nice snazzy phone. I always tend to upgrade every kind of like 2 in a row kind of thing, so I've not upgraded for like 2 years, and this camera so far is looking really cool. The camera quality is fantastic, so hopefully all the future video content is going to look nice and sharp, nice 4K, extra detail, especially when I do some kind of unboxings or kind of special videos I want to do. But let's dive into the review today. We have is Royal Warriors. Michelle Yeoh just kicking ass as usual. EUREKA seems to be loving her. I'm loving her. And this is the second in the Line of Duty series, which the first one we had was Yes Madam. So depending on which country you're based in, I think one was first, one was second. I think down to how EUREKA's releasing them is this one being the second entry in the series. And I was very skeptical. I didn't know what to expect. I had kind of a mixed results with the first one with Yes Madam. And I've got to say, this one kicks some serious ass. So let's dive into Royal Warriors. Royal Warriors released in 1996, 1 year after Yes Madam, which released in 1995. Michelle Yeoh at this point is absolutely kicking ass, just dominating the box office as a main leading female-led action superstar that she is. Just really kind of dominating box office, you know, being the Line of Duty series, and obviously joining with Jackie Chan later on, and then doing some Jet Li films, and also did a second film with the director of this one, David Chung, which is Magnificent Warriors, which I believe was 1 year after, 1987. Really big decade for the actress that didn't stop working during the kind of mid-80s leading into the 90s, just doing some of the biggest action films with some of the biggest superstars ever, and then slowing down a little bit to do some small comedies, just a couple of small dramas here and there, and then dominating the box office yet again with a new wave of Hong Kong movies leading into Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, going more international, going to the more kind of, you know, Western market, and then, you know, just exploring herself as an actress. Definitely a woman that has many talents and many kind of different skill sets, and really still showing that she can still deliver it with the fantastic Everywhere All at Once. Just hopefully that will win an Oscar. And I'm happy to say that Royal Warriors definitely delivers the goods as a second kind of entry in the Line of Duty series, even though this kind of series is more in the line of kind of like Tiger Cage, more anthology kind of based, kind of cop procedural dramas, action based kind of movies. I think maybe sometimes with the original characters it's unsure. In this one you could say it's the same character, but it definitely plays her very different compared to what she plays in the Yes Madam. So you can see it as the same one, or you can just see it as a separate movie, an individual movie itself. These are more kind of sequel in titles only, more than kind of direct sequels in a kind of franchise. And this is very common in kind of a lot of Hong Kong movies, being kind of more individual based movies that just kind of put it under one brand. Definitely seems like in the Line of Duty 3 and 4 have the same character returning back as 2 entries, and I think she also appears maybe in the Tiger Cage movies, but I need to do a bit more research and want to get a hold of those fantastic EUREKA editions. I can explore more into the series, but as it stands alone at the moment, Yes Madam and Royal Warriors are definitely kind of individual movies, very different, and I'm happy to say this one's a lot more confident with itself. You know, the problems I had with Yes Madam, that it was a serious kind of, you know, kick-ass empowerment, you know, action movie, serious kind of procedural movie, but kind of thrown in kind of really wacky kind of comedy. You know, Sammo Hung produced it, and you had some of the characters in Lucky Star movies, and it was a bit inconsistent with its tone. It just about managed to work for my kind of taste, but this one's a lot more serious, but does also have an angle which is quite annoying at the same time, and which I think we all know what that angle is. But I'm happy to say that overall as a package, it's actually pretty goddamn good, and a lot more entertaining and a lot more violent compared to what the first one was. This is a action-packed movie from start to finish. It has some slow moments here in between, but majority of it is heavily inspired from a lot of other kind of Western movies. Terminator definitely is one of them, from the nightclub sequence. This is a much more bloodthirsty and a lot more action-packed. And I gotta say, the introduction to this film is pretty badass and really clever. I really like how they introduced the kind of the overall tone of the film and the overall kind of scale and kind of the level they're willing to go very early on in the film. 2 great action set pieces. One's more of an introduction, one's a more significant, crazy, kind of bonkers, really early action action set piece that really gives the film a chance to kind of breathe a little bit and gives a chance to introduce these characters, get to know their personality, get to know their martial arts, their kind of fighting with weaponry and gunplay and how they interact with each other, and really sets the stage for what the rest of the film is going to be leading into the second and third act of the film. I think it's a really clever introduction overall to the overall content and the tone of the film also, which is really important, and what we're going to get to know throughout the rest of the film. You get a great introduction with Michelle Yeoh as the first opening set pieces, where she's doing a bit of forms work with some Japanese bad guys, which is pretty cool, and some pretty impressive kind of very early kind of action set piece, just kind of getting to know her character. And this time around, Michelle is playing a lot more of a lighter, a lot more of a cutesy kind of fun, flirty kind of character. She's very different than she is in Yes Madam. She's a lot more serious in Yes Madam. She's a lot more kind of procedural kind of thing, very by the book and very kind of ruthless. But in this one, she definitely plays a lot more fluffy, a lot more lighter. And I don't know if that's a studio choice. I don't know if that's a director's choice. I'm not sure, but it's such a drastic change from Yes Madam. I mean, it was really surprising, and they definitely wanted to play her very differently this time around. And I think Michelle does a really good job, and I think she's really fun as when she goes really dark and really serious, that she definitely does do in the film for sure. But in the early kind of portions of the film, she's definitely a lot more fun. She's, they're giving her a lot more kind of comedy, they're giving a lot more kind of banter and sass. They're setting up with a kind of a love interest character, which I'll talk about a bit more later on. But she's definitely playing the character a lot differently compared to what she did in Yes Madam, or whether this is meant to be the same character or not, I don't really know. It doesn't think it really matters overall, but when she delivers the action, delivers the goods, she is there. Film, especially when you get to this hijacking plane sequence, which introduces the kind of the main characters that we're going to get to know for the rest of the film. And that sequence by itself would be a third act finale, big budget blowout, but no, they do it. We're in the first kind of 35-40 minutes of the film, which is quite impressive, and it really kind of gets you kind of going a little bit, and it allows the film to slow down a little bit later on and sets the stage for what the film is actually going to be about. Essentially, the film is three characters: Michelle Yeoh's character, you got Michael Wong, and Hiroyuki Sanada, which I didn't know was in the film, to be being absolutely honest, all team up during the kind of the initial early portion of the film with a hijacking kind of transportation of a really dangerous Japanese gangster boss, that they all intervene, they all kind of stop him and save everyone in the process. And it's a really glorious action set piece, but really kind of sets the stage really well. And then you got the two initial Japanese bosses that were basically in Vietnam or some sort of dangerous kind of war setting, and they became brotherhood in arms. This essentially still three characters becoming sub-celebrities within the kind of the media, and being fact that all three of them are under kind of law enforcement. They kind of form an unofficial bond. They get to know each other down to the kind of a odd circumstances that's happened, and this is where the film kind of slows down a little bit in the really right away, and I really like it. You get to know all three of these characters in very unique ways, and you get Hiroyuki Sanada's character, which is a Japanese cop who wants to retire, he wants to spend his days with his family, he's got a wife, he's got a kid, and he's kind of meeting them at the airport, and you get a really cool section with that character, which is fantastic in the film. I've got to say, I didn't know he's even in the film, and when he was, he looks super young. He looks so young in the film. It is crazy compared to what he looks now, but he is seriously kick-ass. He delivers the goods, and he definitely brings that really cool energy compared to what Michelle Yeoh and Michael Wong's character did, which I think is a good kind of back and forth kind of opposites, which each three are kind of offering something different from what the film's trying to go for. And there's a really cool kind of storyline with that character. It's very tragic and gets really kind of personal as the film goes along. It's great. You have Michelle Yeoh's character, Michael Wong, which is basically the film kind of tries to do this kind of really forced kind of relationship, back and forth, kind of cutesy flirtation, and it gets really kind of annoying really quickly. I gotta say, Michael Wong's character and the actor, he's not very good in the film, I gotta say, and I think that's kind of universally known. I think I'm not the first one to say that. He's not good in the film in the slightest. He's really bad, and I don't blame him necessarily. Maybe it's the writing, maybe it's deliberate, but also what's funny about the film also, because the film does spend a lot of time, that character bringing flowers, just being too nice and being a bit too forceful, trying to get a relationship and trying to be getting a date with Michelle Yeoh's character, which I don't blame him, because who doesn't want to date with Michelle Yeoh? But it comes across quite annoying and kind of gets in the way with the film a little bit, and he gets frustrated at her for lying to him or tricking him, and she's basically saying straight up no to his face multiple fucking times in the film. Take the fucking hint, kind of thing. But the film also acknowledges this in the film, which I think is quite funny, and they kind of poke fun at also the performance. There's a really, really cool line in the film which I thought was absolutely hilarious, but it also plays into the kind of the end of the second act, leads to the third act of the film, where the stakes get really, really high, and they kind of acknowledge the fact that he's just kind of getting in the way. He's doing really stupid stuff and things that, you know, why would you do that? And that becomes a real kind of plot point within the kind of third act, which is quite surprising and kind of lets the film down a little bit in that kind of aspect of kind of forcing a kind of relationship aspect to the love interest character, Michelle Yeoh. And you get Michelle Yeoh's character, which is definitely a lot more kind of, you know, flirtatious, a lot more funny, definitely a lot more lighter banter, which, you know, bouncing off both characters, which is quite cool. But when she gets kind of serious, when she gets really tough in the film and really kind of shows off her kind of intelligence, her acting performance, her action set pieces, really kick-ass, really fun, especially within the third act, which I'll go into a little bit later. But this one needs a little bit of a downtime in the film, which I think is great. You get to know the bad guys of the film, kind of boss characters, which are super pissed. They are very angry. You know, these three characters are kind of publicized within the media, and they want revenge. You know, they are brotherhood in arms. They are gone through Vietnam War. You know, they have gone through hell and came back, and they want straight revenge. And this is where the film turns into very different levels of different genres. You get an awesome sequence with a nightclub, very Terminator-esque, very, very goddamn 80s, super dated, a lot of aspects of the film, but just in a fun way, not in a cringe way, which I think is quite good. And you get some really kind of high-end kind of body count casualties with, and you get some different weaponry as well, which is really cool. And then you get to the kind of almost the boss level in the third act, which goes full cartoon and goes more Tango and Cash as the film goes along, which I think is quite awesome. And the tone for this film is a lot more consistent this time around. It's a lot more serious. It's a lot more kind of 80s in its approach kind of thing. Hiroyuki Sanada's character is just so goddamn cool. Leather jacket, smoking. You know, it's a great sequence when he's on the ship buying guns, but he's not really buying guns. He's there to kick some ass and steal some guns. He wants revenge. He's pissed. And he gets some really kick-ass action set pieces in this film. Really kind of, you know, character you want to kind of see what he does. And, you know, I really like how that kind of gets involved with Michelle Yeoh's character and how she kind of sets the stage really high. And then you got Michael Wong's character, which is just the kind of really awkward kind of comic relief kind of love interest character, as I already mentioned. But, you know, the film's very self-aware with that aspect, and they definitely play that up a lot in the film, a lot more than I expected. All this leads to a completely bonkers, over-the-top kind of third act, which you get kind of Mad Max kind of vibe. The armored truck, you've got Michelle Yeoh wearing a leather jacket with some cool kind of, you know, gloves, and, you know, she's just really kind of going for some cool weaponry, explosions, all this kind of like this kind of mining facility. We're in the open back kind of desert a little bit, and it's just kind of really high stakes, and there's just all the budget's kind of thrown at the wall. Definitely recommend picking up Royal Warriors, guys. A really great release from EUREKA. Really liking this colour scheme at the moment. This is the yellow one. Yeah, fantastic slipcase. There you go. Awesome. And you got a booklet, a disc there. And you just will get the alternative artwork, which I probably should slip over, which is really cool there. That's been my review for the second entry in the Line of Duty series of Royal Warriors. I'm really looking forward to part 3 and part 4, which I know are very different compared to what these two entries are going to be, which I'm very excited to see what they're going to be like and see if they can keep up that same level of kind of action and storytelling and just good police kind of drama, procedural movies, thrillers. As long as they deliver in that regard, I'm going to have a really fun time. What are your favourite parts of this film? What are your thoughts and opinions on Michael Wong's character in the film also? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions, guys. Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.